Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us on this episode of Your Intention Matters, the podcast. My name, of course, is still Paul Madat. Today, I have Jenny Brown. She is strategy manager, sales quality coach, coming to us from TELUS Business in the 6. Jenny, how are things?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm doing very good. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Do me a favor, say hi to everybody, provide a quick intro, and then we're going to dive into it.
Sounds great. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Jenny Brown, as Paul has mentioned. So I'm super passionate about sales and enabling salespeople. So that's where my role fits in, sales quality coach, and endeavor to ensure that everybody gets what they need to be able to make money, have some fun.
I love it. Cat lover as well, yes?
Yeah, that's my ragdoll cat. He's tons of fun, so he'll hop in and out, I'm sure, many times within the video. We'll see how he acts.
Well, he is more than welcome.
Awesome.
He is more than welcome. Well, Jenny, thanks again for being here. You know, you're comfortable or you're familiar with the foundation of the podcast, Your Intention Matters, and it's completely built off of my foundation that nothing is given to any of us. And most of us in the world of sales and sales leadership and facilitation and L&D never thought we'd even get into this arena. And yet here we are by the millions, carrying a bag and trying to carve it out. And I'm looking forward to you sharing your story. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, here we go. Now listen, I don't have a DeLorean on me, but we go back in time on this podcast. All right, so let's go back early 2000s, circa 2003, St. Lawrence College. I see here an associate's degree in biotechnology.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now listen, I don't see sales training, facilitation anywhere there. Talk to me. When you were, finishing your schooling, so to speak, were you like most of us and didn't really know what you really wanted to do? Or that's pretty specific, biotechnology. Did you have a plan around what you thought you'd be doing?
So I love this question. And it's interesting because you started off just a moment ago saying, we never thought we'd be where we thought where we are today. And sales is definitely one of them. Going back to the 2000s, sales wasn't the type of career you would start in. But for me, when we go back to my biotech days, really it was, I knew what I was good at. I was really good at the math. I was really good at sciences. And I thought, you know what, that's where I strive academically. I also had the gift of gab, but that wasn't an academic career choice to go into at that time.
Fair.
So for me, I just went into, I'm going to go into the math, the sciences, the excitement. I loved the sciences. And so that's what drove me to kind of move into biotech. But as you can see through further years, it didn't stick, kind of. And I'll explain
Well, what
more.
happened? Did you get into it at all? Or what happened?
I did.
You did?
So actually, yeah, once I finished my, my college degree, I went into, actually ended up living in Ottawa for a period of time. I worked at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency for a little bit. I worked at another organization that was it was called the International Center for Metabolic Testing. Super cool. You think of like going back to like, if you're into CSI, you'd see different types of like, when they're utilizing like the centrifuge, if you know what that means, but all that cool lab tech stuff. As cool as it is, and I'm sorry to anybody that's listening that loves those shows, is that it actually does not happen within like 5 minutes. It's about a week process to get any of those results.
What? Really?
Yeah, sorry. I have some secrets to tell. But the truth of it is that it was fun, it was cool, but it was really boring for me. And I realized it was just like, when you think about the cool stuff is when things go wrong. And so when you think of like the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, things don't really go wrong within our food. It's very rare. So to see the cool things happen, it was just like, yep, things are great. Things are great. And so it would kind of, for me, it was to the point where I recognized it's not for me.
So how long did you give it?
Oh dear. It's a great question, because now we're going back. It was a few years. But then shortly after, and it was funny, this is kind of when I got into health and wellness, is I still got to utilize my education when I moved into my health and wellness career. because anything that had to do with, biology or understanding how the body works or understanding, how our bodies uh, intake nutrients, things like that. I was already learning about that in biotech. So when I moved that into the health and wellness industry and actually was introduced into sales, I did get to merge the two. And that's actually where I got my most successful, that's where my career progressed.
So where'd you go? Where'd you
So I
land?
actually ended up going into health and wellness. So I went into the weight loss industry. I worked for LA Weight Loss for a good period of time. And I had fun. It was fantastic. I understood the the world of sales,
Mhm.
but also just the understanding of people and really just the excitement behind helping people change their lives for what they truly wanted. And it was great because I had a knack for diving into people's needs. And, we called it a hot button, which is also, can be used in sales in many different ways, but it was,
Yeah.
can you truly find what makes people tick and make an organization, for example, tick to what they need to get to their goals and get successful. So I got to use that.
And how long were you with LA Weight Loss?
Oh, I was there. Well, I was in the whole weight loss industry because I ended up switching to another health and wellness organization as well. So the whole industry was about 12, 13 years, I believe, in
Wow.
total. Oh yeah, yeah, that was fun. I went into sales, and then I was in sales management, and then I ended up running a third of the country with a portion of it. And I had 56 stores, 6 area managers at one point. I had a blast. And it was really neat to just get an understanding of how that industry worked. And that's what propelled me deeply into the sales type of organizations.
Were you still Ottawa based at this point?
No, so I'm
No.
a bit of a nomad. And I grew up in a military family, and I love to share that because that just showcases where I love to take opportunities and go wherever I needed to go. So I worked in Ottawa, I worked in Kingston, I worked in London, I worked in Windsor. And so when I said I was, kind of responsible for the third of the country, that was my area was majority of Ontario. So I was in Ottawa. I had a couple of stores in Quebec when I was at LA Weight Loss for a period of time. So it allowed me to do quite a bit of traveling and exciting opportunities to meet and help develop others in their sales.
So what was the
careers.
next industry for you when you decided to leave health and wellness?
That was really then I decided to move back into, I was trying to kind of marry the two again and go back into, I went into like an environmental science role mixed with sales, and I dabbled in it for just a short period of time. And I don't even think it's on my LinkedIn profile, which is totally fine. I went there for a short stint and realized, still,
Mm.
this just wasn't for me because it was very stagnant. I just didn't find that particular organization worked well for me, which is totally fine. And so I decided to move into tech. And it was an interesting change for me because at first, when I was interviewed for a couple of roles, folks were like, why do you want to get into tech? This is not you. And I was like, I love change.
Mm.
I love development. I love growth. And what better yet to get into an industry like technology when it comes to that? But I also still loved sales because I
Who
loved the
gave you your
energy.
first shot in technology?
Actually, it's my coworker, the individual that I work with today, Amanda Anderson. She actually reached out because she was already at the organization. She's like, "Hey, Jenny, you would love this. You should come." And I thought, "You sure? I don't know. I don't know if I have it quite yet." And it was with Soft Choice. And I had a great time. I actually ended up spending about 3 years there facilitating, oh, gee, about 20 to 30 new hires a month would come into the organization. I was responsible to onboard them. And it was amazing. Had an opportunity to help support and develop salespeople all over North America. And yeah, I miss that place at times.
Was that your first opportunity to be I guess technically speaking, like a professional sales trainer facilitator?
Yes, yeah. Because I was in the sales role. I sold
Right.
predominantly or sales management. That was I did a lot of sales training in the health and wellness industry as well. But then when I moved into sales management, I kind of, wore both hats. But when it came to technology, that's when I ended up being more in the training, facilitating, and enablement side of things.
I can appreciate your comments regarding the the joy that you had with that role. When I was my first opportunity to be a sales trainer, facilitator, was with Xerox, and I was teaching their new hire curriculum, and it was the most fun job I ever had. And even to this day, what I do for a living now, I love it. I'm in training, I love it. But as an employee for an organization, and I think about my 10 years at Xerox or so, it was probably the lowest paying job I had of my 10 years there. But it was
Yeah.
it was the best job that I ever had. It was the most fun. I got to travel, I got to meet people, and I got to impact them. And when you're in the room, like, there's just no substitutes. So did you take to facilitating right away, or was there a bit of a hurdle for you to figure it out?
Nope. I loved it. I
Did
think,
you?
yeah, that was, as I could say, that was my jam.
Mhm.
And I think, when I look back to, what does it take to be a good facilitator? It's selling yourself. And I think of that back to my sales career. And I always wonder, okay, when am I going back into sales? Not if, it's more when, because I know that's definitely for me. But when I think of the facilitation side of things, it was, there was content, especially going into technology. Like, I didn't have a lot of expertise behind my belt, right? And so, but I thought, you know what? I gotta fake it till I make it, so they say. And I did, but I found out ways to do so, which is,
Mm.
and this is what I train all of the salespeople on a regular basis. If you don't know the answer, say I don't know, and get the answer. So that's what I got to do in facilitation as well. Find the expert subject matter experts, learn my information as best as I possibly could, and then sell it to my audience. But sell it to my audience based on the way that they wanted to be sold to. And that was kind of the way that I learned real quick, is know who's in front of me, know exactly what they need to be successful, and make it happen.
So what happened when you left? Was it your choice or was it theirs?
Yeah, no, it was my choice. And again, it was more of a pay thing.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So I knew there was an opportunity for me to further develop myself. And it was tough. It was a really, really tough decision because it was such a great organization. I had such a blast, but I knew it was a career opportunity that I had to take for myself. And, it was coming with, okay, I want a little bit of a bigger place. I want to make sure that, my family's provided for. And, there's more places I want to go see in the world. There's maybe some more traveling I'd like to do. So it was that time in my life that I knew it was the next step. And so I took it. I took the next step, and yeah.
So where did you land?
So actually, I ended up going over to Venna initially, which also was fantastic. Now,
Like
Venna was
across the street, right?
right across. Apparently, I like to stay in the neighborhood because shortly after, I ended up working at Achievers. All three of them are in a
All three
triangle.
Liberty Village. So you
All
could
of them,
walk
and
there.
yeah, exactly. Well, that was the funny part. I would say, guys, I'll see you later. Like, I'll see you in 5 minutes, really.
Let's
So I
grab
was able to
lunch.
keep like all sorts of colleagues, and I still had lunches with friends, but it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was such a great opportunity to stay in that neighborhood. And also, a lot of people in the neighborhood had hopped between the three, because that's the world of tech, right? People hop and jump. And then, actually Venna was growing fantastically, but another opportunity that came up for me that I decided to take, and why I left Venna. So Venna's a fintech, right? And also a great organization and great people. But for me, it was an opportunity to work for an organization at Achievers that was recognition software. And that suited my personality. So I ended up actually taking that because fintech wasn't as appealing for me personally at the time.
Fair.
And it was, again, I've got to be able to sell the information because I was in enablement as well. So I need to sell the information that I'm passionate about. And when it came to recognition software and understanding, I always look at salespeople, they like one or two things. They like money or recognition or both. And, what better position would have been for me to get into?
When you think about your enablement runs at Soft Choice, Venna, and Achievers used to be I Love Rewards, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes,
I think that's what they
yes,
were called.
you got
And
it.
so in those roles within the various companies, did you have a chance to create your own content, or were you certified to teach other content?
Actually, great question. So both.
Both.
So I was thankfully, I was actually Challenger certified with Soft Choice, and the Challenger methodology just was so impactful for me for my career, because what I recognized immediately, for anybody that's listening right now that doesn't understand Challenger, just think of it for, why someone should change what they're doing, why they should do it now, and why they should choose us to do it to support them through it. But what I really, what really resonated with me was that actually had a lot to do similarly with the health and wellness industry, because how we sold at the health and wellness industry was based on building rapport, finding the, and I'm bringing you into the kind of like the valley of despair. You find out the
Yeah.
why, what is the impact? And we called that their hot button to determine exactly what people needed to change, and then hold their hand and take them to, where the success will look like together. And so when I was able to take on that content, that was fantastic. So I was like, that makes sense to me. I've been doing this for years. And it had the human element approach that I always knew quite well working in the health and wellness industry with people. But businesses are no different.
Yeah.
People to people interactions are still there. A little bit different because obviously a business is much larger, and their hot button, if you will, is going to be way different. It could be at a much larger capacity and more people involved. But so I spent a lot of time getting to know that. Then on the flip side, as soon as it came to what is going to work for individuals to be successful, I got to put on my creative hat. I got to input things that I thought were going to impact people in front of me. So I supported in the creation of playbooks, both at Soft Choice and at Achievers, which was really, really fun.
Nice.
I'm not the writer, I would say, that I always thought I thought I would be. That was never my thoughts of where I would go, but I actually really enjoyed it. And I got to develop some pretty cool presentations. And actually, just recently with TELUS, I got to put together a workshop for all of their sales leadership for Ontario. And it was a 2-day workshop that I also got to be a part of. And I got to involve some creativity with content, of course, that's provided by the organization. But I get to definitely bring in some creativity to help make sure that the information people are receiving sticks.
And when did you join Achievers?
That was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, 2 years ago.
So early 2020?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Let's talk about this then. So early 2020, and then end of Q1 2020, the world shuts down. So you're in this enablement role.
Yeah.
And so how did you pivot from what I assume was probably an expectation you're going to be doing in person, like training sessions and meetings and like in the office, and then the world shuts down and everybody goes remote. And so how did you navigate that when you're still pretty new to the organization?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, because it was enablement and I supported global, it actually was a little bit easier for me personally. Stressful at home. Don't get me wrong there.
Sure.
There was definitely that for anyone listening. I'm not making it sound easy. But for me, because it was global, it gave me some flexibility at times. And what I mean by that is I was supporting both the UK and Australia. And so if I needed to do calls and I needed to switch my schedule around, that was actually a little bit easier. So that was kind of helpful. However, let's be realistic. What did I do initially? I overworked. I worked way too much, to the point of I was almost burnt out. So that's something I comfortably want to make sure I do share. But it was a big shift. It was definitely a big shift. But to be really honest, as a facilitator, one of the most interesting things for me is that I have computer screens in front of me. So instead of Jenny having to be in front of the audience and make sure that I have all my notes, everything is in front of my face. What I didn't find as helpful, though, is people had the option to turn their cameras off. Yeah. And the reason I struggle with that as a facilitator is that I am really like to watch body language. I like to watch, where are your eyes looking? Are you looking out the window at squirrels? Okay, do I need to bring you back to help make sure that you're able to retain information? And I can respect where all of our salespeople are at specifically today with that. You have to find new ways to entice people, new insights you have to provide to ensure that you can capture that audience. So, there's a lot of tricks that I learned. A lot of times you have to make sure you're asking a ton of questions to pull your audience in, and online more than ever. So
did TELUS find you or did you find them?
I would say a little bit of both.
Okay.
So of course, as always, I've got peers within the organization that said, hey, Jenny, you should take a look at this. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll have a couple of conversations. And I did end up having some calls. I met up with I had a phone call with a sales rep in BC. I had one of the call with the director of our premier sales organization, had a great chat. And a couple of other colleagues that I used to work with years ago are also at TELUS. So it was one of those things where it's like, what is the opportunity? What does it look like? And what kind of got me really jazzed about it was the coaching element. So I've always had a passion for coaching and developing people. And sales. So I would say that kind of blended together to me. And that's in particular what this role is all about. How can I coach and develop now less on the rep side, but more on the leadership side to help develop these people to best develop their people. And so it was, it was kind of like a no-brainer to hop into that. But I'll be honest, sometimes as my daughter actually that I have, she's 11 and she's starting to become older. I've got a little teenager on my hands. I'm starting to notice that Jenny's got a little bit more freedom. So I'm thinking, what's next as far as amping up my skills? What other educational sides do I want to look at? And what are the opportunities that I might be, looking at for my future? Not sure what that means yet. Could be a 5-year plan, but definitely excited to see where that lands.
Was there any resistance to get back into technology sales at all?
For when I
With TELUS?
No.
No?
No. Well, the thing is, I guess it's interesting because when I think about, Achievers as well as Venna, it's still like that's SaaS. So it's all software, right? But not necessarily. I think, it's interesting when I think about sales as a whole, and I even go back to my health and wellness. I still am me. And so what I mean by that is that the product will always be there. It's just get to know the information that you need to know. But more importantly for me, it was getting to know the people, build the relationships, determine exactly what's making people tick, regardless of what it is that the product is. I mean, you should know a little bit to make sure that obviously, you can entice people to the right information that they need. But what makes them tick, and one of the hardest things you have to do today is you need to know more about people than they know about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to spend my time doing. And, and that's in sales, in training, in coaching, is diving in, asking, difficult questions, doing your research for other individuals around, either for me, TELUS the organization, or the industry. But it's a lot. It's a lot to work on, but it's the passion I think I already have. So I want to know more. What else can I do? Where else can I go? And, how can I help?
Jenny, what a great run. I mean, military background, math and science, biotechnology. You bounce around Southern Ontario with great runs, Ottawa, Kitchener-Waterloo, Windsor, London, now in Toronto, sales enablement, health and wellness, technology sales. And I loved your conversation about your passion for enablement and facilitations, because that's like right in my wheelhouse. And congrats on everything so far. You're a mom, you're a cat owner. I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I always, one of my favorite lines, and I share this with every time I facilitate, I probably say it is, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's interesting because I think back to when I was, younger, and I was like, people like, do you like public speaking? And no, I hated public speaking when I was young, but I remember there was always a reward at the end. And that reward was either, a compliment or an opportunity, whatever it was. So anytime anybody gives me an opportunity inside, I might be saying, absolutely not, or I'm fighting inside, but I'll always put my hand up first and say, pick me. And I hop in, and that line meant so much to me because that's exactly what it is. If I can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I will always continue to grow and be successful. And I would say, no matter what's happened, I'm successful. And that's because I choose to be in whatever way I'm learning or growing or developing. So, yeah.
Jenny, I love it. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up right now. Remember, your intention matters. Why? Because I promise you, that's the result you'll tend to get. We're out of here. We'll do it again next week. And let's go Leafs. Thank you.